good evening, and welcome to This Week in Joe's Basement. I'm Joe. And this is my basement. So, this week in Joe's Basement, we're going to examine the history and the origins and the sociological and economic impact of the Moon Blob. But first, some viewer mail. All right, so we got a couple letters here. We got one from the look of the type on the typewriter. Seems to be a fellow who's written us before, complaining about a lack of what he calls a female influence on the show. And he's responding to episode 22, More Women on the Show, where we went out into the real world looking for women for This Week in Joe's Basement, and along the way asking them, what they think of men. And he writes, Joe, nice try in adding some female influence to your last show, but I don't think you're getting the idea about what your audience wants to know about females. I mean, we learned almost nothing about their thoughts, zip about their personalities, and they kept their clothes on the whole time. What gives here? One of your guys even drops his pants on TV, showing us an ass that looked like a chia donkey, but your ladies just stand there and chew gum. Now, your show seems to have a theme of what weird guys do. You have yet to give us even the mildest indication of what weird women do. Signed, Him. All right, Him. Well, in accordance with your obviously well-informed suggestions of how we should run our show, all future interview participants, men on the street who are women, will be required to remove their clothes before answering any questions. All right, so we got another letter here from King Zeke, specifically King Zeke Donald Billingsley III from the Institute for Psychoanalysis. And he says on the back of the envelope, Joe of Joe's Basement and King B are my heroes. I'm only too pleased, as you can see. And he says, Joe, we'd use the wrench on our space vehicle. Also a response to episode 22, when we saw how women and homosexuals responded to large wrench. All right, so let's see the beginning here. King Zeke. The following on his trademark King Zeke special stationery. He instructs me to start here at human letter 2 on the upper left. He writes, Hi, Joe the Great. Your show made all of us lower Goose Island inhabitants go crazy. We will be having an underground festival in your honor. You show is the only real thing on human television. We have a few shows like yours shown on our planet, Zarkum Frolinger. And on the bottom, he's got that bee Ratman, Mr. Joe, that silhouette there on the bottom. And on the top, he points out that this is my very own King Bee crown, and that's why the idiosyncratic shape of the paper. Anyway, all right. My goofy pop, the Reverend Squirmin Herman, wanted to know why you, no more you, threw my letter after you read it. And he takes a moment to apologize here. He says, sorry, I spell bad. The fourth brainwave is out on rainy days. And he continues, tell Herman he be too conservative and loosen his stance, plural, on letter chucking. I, King Zeke, and even my dumb drug brother Hal the Looper went berserk with happy smiles when you chucked my letter after reading it. Please make us happy and throw it again, Basement Joe. Thank ye. Ta-ta, King Zeke. But wait, there's more. Part 2. P.S. What kind of potato chips do Joe eat? They look tasty. Oh, when you looked for us, we were not 25 Kronliter, below Hooker and Halstead. We moved underground to Cherry Street, around Halstead in Lower Goose Island, now 35 Kronliters. P.S. squared. Our dog be called Hojacker. Say his name and he should bark with a happy smile. He recovered. Thank ye. Ta-ta, King Zeke. Hojacker. Son of a gun. That's good. That's good. All right. Well, so I think King Zeke at this point has to rank as one of our more intriguing as well as more regal viewers. I think at this point he's, in fact, eclipsed Sir Dada as the king of write-in blank verse. And so we decided to give another stab at looking for the king himself and see if we could dredge up the real article. Hooker and Halstead. Well, this is where I came looking for King Zeke last time, and he's not here. But I guess he's moved to his new place. He said 35 cron liters now, over by around the corner by Cherry Street. Now, I think part of my problem is that I'm really not sure whether King Zeke meant an American cron liter or a British cron liter, because, you know, royalty, they can be kind of old-fashioned. Fuck, man, how am I gonna figure this out? Ah! Dictionary. Let's look this up. Corrupt, conjugal, no, wrong way. Cosmoline, countdown, cow, crab, Creole, crusade, no, too far. Cross-Petrogian, criticism, cromlech, cron liter. American or British. The length of a 19-pound wrench when flung at the ground. All right. Now, if only I could find a wrench. Let's see. 19-pound wrench. I wonder if I still have the one I left here. Aha! All right. Off to find King Zeke. 35 cron liters. One. God damn, this thing's heavy. Two. 33. 34. 35 cron liters. God damn, he must be a strong guy. All right. Let's see where we are. Cherry Street. Okay, we're in business. So let's see if King Zeke is home and see if he wants to talk to us. Hello? Hello? Anybody home? It's not kind of loud, I think. Hello? Anybody home? Hi. Hi, yeah, we're looking for King Zeke. We're from Public Access Cable, and we've come to interview him for a television show called This Week in Joe's Basement. What do you mean he's in the shower? Well, fuck you, too. Came all this way from Hyde Park to talk to this guy. Come on. You know, they just don't teach anybody any manners anymore. I think we're just gonna have to stay in Hyde Park from now on. This is ridiculous. Well, so much for King Zeke. All right. Now on to the substance of this week's show, the Moon Blob. This week in Joe's Basement, we're going to take a close look at the Moon Blob in historical perspective. We're going to start, specifically, with its role in the shaping of Federal Reserve banking policy in the 30s under Roosevelt's New Deal, and continue up to the present day and take a harsh, careful scrutiny of the impact of the Moon Blob on social and economic justice in our society. Well, that's obviously a very weighty subject, so I guess we'd better just begin at the beginning with the formulation of the problem this week in Joe's Basement.
554, widening taps.
I'm going to read to you tonight about the perturbation theory, beginning with the formulation of the problem. In quantum mechanics, only a limited number of problems can be solved exactly. For example, the problem of a moon blob. In many cases, we have to resort to several approximation methods for solving the moon blob equation. One of such methods, which is applied most widely, is called the method of moon blob. It is applicable when the potential energy moon blob of interaction of a particle may be divided into two moon blobs. V equals V sub 0 plus V prime. The potential moon blob V is chosen in such a way that the moon blob equation with the moon blob H sub moon blob equals T plus moon blob prime has an exact solution, while the moon blob energy V prime gives small corrections to the moon blob of the basic equation with the potential V moon blob.
successive computation of these moon blobs, in the first moon blob, second moon blob, etc., gives, as a rule, a moon blob in a certain moon blob parameter. In moon blob mechanics, different moon blobs of the moon blob method have been moon blob. The moon blob important of moon blob versions, moon blob method, or the moon blob time moon blob conditions. Moon blob used when moon blob, independent moon blob eliminated moon blob, energy moon blob,
Seven oh four. Angel hair.
Good evening. Tonight's story is about the Queen of the Suburbs and speaks. In the turbulent 60s, I moved from a suburb of Los Angeles, California, to Hinsdale, Queen of the Western Suburbs of Chicago. It was in my freshman year of high school in Hinsdale, Queen of the Suburbs, where I first encountered the word speak, which in later life I considered to be somewhat ironic because in Tarzana, in the suburb of Tarzana in Los Angeles, where I had come from, there were lots of speaks all over the place, running all over the place, and you would think that that would lend itself to people being called speaks and niggers and queers and wops and stuff like that all the time. I heard the word wop, but never speak, and that was funny because there were more speaks than wops in any case. So anyway, I encountered that in Hinsdale for the first time, and in later life that tipped me off to the fact that even though I had not been aware of it during high school, I had lived in sort of a cultural and social void during all my high school years, which turned me into the kind of speak that I am today. It turned out once in 1985 that I had to go out to a meeting in Hinsdale, Queen of the Suburbs, to do some bureaucratic business. So I borrowed a car from a friend of mine which had no license plate and was old and was covered with bumps and bruises and stuff, you know, bruises on a car, if you can imagine. And sure enough, since I was riding around in the Queen of the Suburbs, Hinsdale, I got pulled over by a policeman who took me to the station, and fortunately I was able to call a friend of mine and get bailed out for $50. I got a court order, not a court order, a court date later, a month later in Downers Grove, a much less prestigious suburb, I'm told, and I'm practically sure of it because Hinsdale, after all, is the queen of the suburbs. I went to Downers Grove to my court date, and this time I drove the same car, and it was still all bruised and ugly and old, but it had license plates, I made sure of that, and I wore a coat and tie because I figured it would be to my advantage as I speak in the suburbs to go looking good, you know, looking like a white person as much as possible. It was not easy for me to do that, you know, to put on this coat and tie because I don't like to do that kind of shit, but anyway, I did it for reasons of practicality. So I got out of court and I paid my fine and everything, and I decided I would cruise slowly back through my former hangouts in the suburbs, and I was going through Clarendon Hills, which is like the little sister of the Queen of the Suburbs next to Hinsdale, and I got pulled over again. And I thought, God damn it, this is discrimination. Here I am, I speak, dressed up and everything, but I speak, and they're pulling me over for no other reason. And what the cop told me was that there had been a kidnapping in Joliet. So the police in Clarendon Hills were all worried about slow driving cars that didn't look like they belonged, and that was me, unfortunately. So I got pulled over, and you know, I was thinking about it while he was explaining what the hassle was about, but what turned out to be my feeling ultimately, that it wasn't because I looked like a kidnapper. And I tell you, I didn't feel like a kidnapper, but what I felt was like I speak out of place in the queen of the suburbs.
6:11. Night shift.
I gotta tell you, there's one thing about Colleen. So we were these best friends, and we were always either gonna go off to New York and become prostitutes or actresses. There was nothing in between. We were gonna be prostitutes or actresses.
Do you have a preference?
At the time, no. It didn't matter. As long as we made a lot of money and came back. I mean, actually, if I thought about it, I'd rather have been an actress.
Why?
But I don't think Colleen cared. Because that's what I always wanted to be from when I was 5. I hadn't always wanted to be a prostitute. I didn't even know about prostitutes. But later I found out.
Well, what did you like about being a prostitute, or the idea of becoming a prostitute?
We didn't have any job skills, so there wasn't really anything else we could do. And I don't know, with Colleen's figure and stuff. We just, it just seemed like a really good idea, because we wanted to buy a lot of drugs. And we'd shoplift in those days, too. But see, I don't remember. I just remember that we were going to do it, and I was really excited about it. We were doing a lot of drugs. We didn't really know what we were talking about it, and we had nowhere to go, and our life was like dead end. I mean, it could have been secretaries or something, but didn't know who'd want to do that. That's so boring. So Colleen got back with her boyfriend, and then we graduated from high school somehow, and I kept telling my friends, no, I'm going to go off to New York and become an actress. And then she had 3 kids, and I got married later, and then divorced, and became an actress. Yeah. But I was like married almost before all my friends were, and divorced before all my friends were. Just a fluke. I was like, it was a blind date. My girlfriend, who was also drug-free, because I got drug-free after school, after I graduated from high school. I was like 17 or 18. And this guy was drug-free, and so we had this blind date. So I went over there, and I remember we locked ourselves in a closet together that first night. We were hiding from the 4th person at the household. And just there was chemistry. I don't know. We became friends and then later married, and we didn't kiss for like 3 months because we were both trying to pretend that neither of us were in love, because you get hurt and stuff. So after that, the first night we kissed, I was staying at his house, and I wasn't really staying there. I mean, we were up talking late and giving each other foot massages, and then I said, well, I should go, and then I kind of left, and then I kind of came back and knocked on the door. I said, well, it's so late. Maybe I should just stay here. And he said, okay. I said, okay. I said, well, I'll just stay on the couch. It's so, And then so I was on the couch, and he was in his room meditating. Oh, well, bad or good, depending. Well, not certainly to get engaged, but so there were these mosquitoes, because Minnesota has a lot of mosquitoes, and the screen had a hole in it, so they were all over the place. And I'm on the couch, and so I knocked on his bedroom door, and I said, well, there's a lot of mosquitoes out here. I was just wondering if maybe I could, come in there and meditate with you, because everything. And so he says, okay. So we go in, and I meditate, and then I lay down after the meditation and pretend I'm asleep, like I've just accidentally fallen asleep. And
he likes to meditate alone?
He used to meditate alone, yeah. And then one thing or another, we're kissing, and it gets really romantic, and he's kissing me, and I go, well, you feel this way about me? And he says, yeah. And I feel this way about you. And I go, God, I've been telling my girlfriend, my mother, my family for like a month or 2 that I'm going to marry. I met the man I'm going to marry. He's like, you too? And he says, and I say, yeah. And so we go, we both feel this way? And he says, yeah. And he says, well, let's call my mother. It was like 6 a.m. I said, okay. And all of a sudden I didn't feel very excited romantically. I started to think about things. And so we called his mother. She was really excited. She was like so happy. So after that, it seemed it was kind of embarrassing to back out, in the wedding. So we just got married.
So in order to save face, you got married?
Yeah, but it was a nice marriage for a while. Yeah.
By 16, many reflections.
So, for the benefit of those of you who have never worked in the construction industry, I wanted to tell you a story which would clarify just how hard it can be to work in construction. this story actually goes back to the first job I had in construction. I was hired to work on a very large building that we were putting up. The building was about halfway done when I was hired. And I arrived on the job, and, well, frankly, from the very beginning, I had problems because the foreman that I had to work with, he was a really big guy, and he looked kind of like this. And it was just very hard to work under those circumstances. 7:29. Love done.
6, 7, 8 years ago, I lived in New York in a George Washington hotel. I guess since then it's become an apartment complex. But it was very small and depressing. And I was kind of poor at the time, and I needed money for reasons of my own. So I met this woman through some mutual friends. She was much older than me. She was a widow, as a matter of fact. I would speculate her age to be about 65. She was pretty well preserved, though, for her age. She had a great body, I must say. She had large breasts and was still in fairly good shape. She had a slight mound over her, you know, not quite her belly, but just above her lower regions. And it was kind of like a painting from one of the great masters, so she was actually quite sexy for her age. And she was very lonely. And we agreed to meet at a small motel, a transient motel. And we did. And we went in, and I remember very well that the help at this motel thought that the whole thing was pretty funny. This elderly lady and this very emaciated sort of young man with a pallor and no doubt some sort of problem that was nobody's business but his own. And we went in, and they smirked and sort of giggled beneath their breath, and she seemed to get sort of a kick out of this, like she was doing something naughty, perhaps, and I thought, well, I don't care, I just need some money, and a couple $100, I don't care, So we went upstairs, and she had brought a bottle of scotch with her. You know, some people really need their crutches when they're gonna do the deed, you know. It's just, we can't possibly just do this because it's, you know, we gotta loosen up, we gotta get rid of our ambitions, but I didn't have any, I didn't care. So she asked me if I would call down and get some ice from the desk, and I did. And there was a knock at the door several minutes later, and there was this, I would guess to be middle-aged Hispanic man with only one hand. And in his one hand, he held up the ice, and I paid him, but he couldn't take the money with his other hand because he just had a stump. And he had a very strange look. It was kind of like this on his face with a big grin, like he knew something that we didn't know. I thought maybe they were taping us from behind the mirror. But anyway, he went on his way, and I go up to this lady, and she's, like I say, a very attractive widow lady, and she had let her hair down, and she appeared several years younger, and I started kissing her and fondling her and trying to basically establish a mood, because frankly, I was pretty wasted, and I just wanted my money, thank you very much. And she said, no, we have to talk first. And I said, oh, yeah, okay. So we talked, and she said, you know, I don't have a glass for my scotch. So I called the desk again, and this one-handed man came back with a glass and an even bigger grin on his face, and I started to get very annoyed by the whole thing, and I was starting to really wonder, could I do this, you know? Could I actually go through with this action? Well, anyway, she got a little bit drunk and I got a little bit drunk, and I just started doing what I thought was appropriate, and she seemed to react pretty well this time. So before you knew it, we were naked and we were in the bed, and we were basically just having sex. But she was a very strange woman. I get the impression that she was very frightened or repressed, and the closer she came to climaxing, the more she screamed, "No, no, no," as if her life was somehow, you know, in her soul was lost or something. But she finally did climax, and then we started intercourse, and she just kept repeating, "Fuck it, fuck it, fuck it." And I kept saying to myself, what the hell is it? You know, what is it? I mean, you're talking about you, or are you talking about your vagina? What are you talking about? Well, anyway, we did this, and it was over, and she wanted to talk. So we talked for a couple of hours, and she was under the impression that the raging intellectual debate of the day was maybe Freud versus Marx, you know, which I thought was maybe kind of a moot point by now, and I wanted to talk about other things, like my $200. So I nipped the conversation in the bud, and threw her on the bed, and did it again and again a couple of times. And she said to me at one point, "You really like to fuck, don't you?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I like it, but I like my $200 even more." So she gave me my $200, and I went on my way and got what I needed to get, which is nobody's business but my own. And I suppose I should have felt ashamed by what I had done, or some sense of remorse, but I didn't. And that was that.
Moon blob, 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 moon blob
I said Moon Blob, Moon Blob, Moon Blob, Moon Blob, Moon Blob, Moon
Moon Blob.